Welcome to the Felt Hub and welcome to my new YouTube series, Conversations in Creativity, Meet the Author, where we're going to delve into the enchanting world of needle felting by chatting with the talented authors who help us bring this amazing craft to life. In each episode, we'll explore their creative journeys, uncover the inspirations behind their work, and discuss how creativity has helped to shape their lives. In our first episode, I am thrilled to be talking to Karin Celestine, the imaginative force behind the beloved Celestine and the Hare. Karin is an artist and author based in Monmouth, Wales, who crafts needle-felted animals oozing with charm and character. And these delightful creatures star in their stop-motion animations and a series of captivating picture books for both children and adults, published by Graffeg. Join us as we embark on this delightful conversation with Karin Celestine, exploring the magic and mischief woven into their creations. And stay tuned until the end, when I'll be announcing the lucky winner of the book we are going to be discussing, The Lightbringers, from the competition that I've been running on Facebook. So grab a cuppa and let's get in there and talk weasels, chocolatiers, The Lightbringers, beautiful book, and of course, the beloved King Norty. So, Karin, welcome. I am absolutely thrilled that you have agreed to join me, the first in the series of our Conversations in Creativity, Meet the Author. But you are so much more than an author and an artist. Looking at the book, The Lightbringers, which I remembered when this came out, and it's just a magical world. But when you actually start to read the book, it reads like poetry. It's so beautifully written. I'm going to read what it says on the back. It says, "When light recedes from the land, autumn's fruitfulness is replaced by winter's cold, bleak stillness. But deep within the ground, in the cracks and crevices where the small creatures live, the light lives on, protected and cherished. And when the Hare calls, those that keep it know how to respond. The Lightbringers, a story of hope." And that just says so much. It's a beautiful book, and I will be announcing at the end, so stay tuned. There will be a winner of this book. And there are also some beautiful postcards that Karin has actually included. And of course, one of the "no chocolate is left in this vehicle overnight" sticker, which I was so tempted just to snaffle away, and a little "you are fab" sticker. But they're beautiful illustrations. So let's find out about you, Karin. Your needle felting story. I mean, it's not just a needle felting story. There's a sort of conglomeration of everything going on within your magical world. When did you start needle felting? But really, when did your sort of creative life actually start?
I think I've always been creative, and my mum was a craftswoman. Actually, I remember being a little kid, and she used to ask me what I wanted on my clothes, and she would lino cut pictures and print them on my clothes for me and things. So I've just always made stuff. And I've always been creative and just fiddling with plasticine as a little kid. And I remember, they had to bring a toy to school day, and I was the little weirdo who turned up with my weaving loom. So I think I've always made.
Yay for weirdos.
But I was also one of those real little brain boxes as well. I was really good at science, and there's always been that sort of duality there of kind of saying, well, you're good at, if you're academic, you shouldn't do arts. And I've sort of battled the whole way along to do art and science again, together all the way, really. Yeah. So I've always made things. And I've tried pretty much every craft going. I started with wet felting, actually, sort of making, like bags and slippers and hats and things like that. And I started that probably about 30 years ago now, I think. And I remember somebody coming up to me once and saying, "Have you seen these? Have you seen these things? They're called felting needles." And it's like, they're just amazing, because she was like, you can repair holes with them. So rather than having, for wet felting, and when I mean, I'm that old that this was before needle felting was a craft that people do. So I got this needle and I was like, oh, that's great. You can patch up a hole on your wet felting with that. It's absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, being me, I was like, oh, you could maybe make something else with these. So I started just making little things and little animals, because I've always been obsessed with.
So did you start making them before you'd even seen them then as needle felted?
There was no needle felting when I started. As a hobby, as a craft, it didn't exist. So I had to make everything up. So there were no tutorials, there were no kits, there was nothing. There were these needles that people were saying were useful for repairing holes in wet felting, but there was no needle felted animals anywhere. So I was just playing about like I did with any craft, and like just having a go at making little things, and then slowly making little animals. And I did that for quite a while, just trying different crafts. And then I think it was about 2011, I got ill, I got cancer, and I was in bed for ages, and I wasn't allowed to, I had a year where I wasn't allowed to pick anything up, anything heavy, couldn't pick my sewing machine up, couldn't use my knives or axes or anything. And I was just lying in bed really frustrated. And I just thought, where's those felting needles? They were so therapeutic. It was something I could do.
Absolutely,
just lying down. I could, you can pick it up, you can put it down. It's not like I knit as well as a hobby, and that, when you're counting rows and you can't stop mid-row because you've got to do so many stitches and follow a pattern. And I think there's something really lovely about needle felting, that you can pick it up and put it down. You can do simple things, you can do complicated things. So for me, it reignited the needle felting, came back again after just playing about, years and years ago, as something I could do just lying in bed. And then I just got completely obsessed and kept going and making little animals. And then I was thinking about maybe selling the odd like pair of slippers or hat or something, but people kept asking to buy the animals.
So you are, in effect, you are one of the needle felting pioneers. We have you to thank for all of this.
It took me 15 years to suss out how to make fingers and toes, and now there's just people there who have they've got like these sticky waxes, and they've got there's people like you. It's just amazing that there's people there.
I remember, I started needle felting in 2013, and even then, there was not many people around doing the needle felting. And I actually started off on a wet felting course, funnily enough. And I was just roaming around YouTube one day, and I thought, needle felting? Goodness, what wizardry is this with wool, And that was it. As you said, and it's something crafts as therapy message really as a whole is something that I'm really passionate about. There's no tricky patterns, there's no sewing, you don't have to follow anything, there's no rules. I've started out making a hare, and it's ended up looking like a cross between a dog and something else, but that's just how it is, and so that's what it ends up as. And sometimes the wool just does what it wants to do anyway. I can't believe you've been needle felting for that long.
Well, I stopped for a long time, I had to go and things. And then I think it was, probably the same time as you, where I really started properly doing it as a real learning the craft. It was mainly because it was the one thing I could do while I was lying in bed. 2013 was when I started selling things and actually setting up a Facebook page, and, I got a little Etsy shop, and all of that was in 2013. But it was about 2011 that I actually started just making felting again. And I've always been a textile person. It's always been wool or fabric, or, I think that's really my main love, is that sphere. But I just got sucked in somehow.
And how did that help your recovery through what was a really traumatic time, obviously, sort of as a sort of mental health therapy?
I think anything that I think being creative is so important. I think we don't value enough how important creativity is, and that being able to just sit and do something that you lose yourself in. I mean, whether you're stressed about work or your family or illness or whatever it is, something like being, if you've got something, I mean, like for me it was cancer, and there's all these tests and worry, is it gone, is it coming back, am I going to die, all of that there. And it's like this white noise the whole time behind you, whatever your stress is. And then you can just lose yourself in this beautiful colors and textures and just sit there. So there's something very meditative, I think, about just, I mean, people talk about stabbing, and stabbing wool and things. And for me, it's not an angry thing. And I kind of don't really like that. I know some people, it's funny, and they talk about, stabbing bits of wool, and people saying, oh, it must be really good when you're angry. And I was like, well, no, you just break needles and make ugly things.
I've never used it for anger management, to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't work, I don't think. And I think you make very ugly. I think yourself comes out in your work, and I think your work will look very angry.
Yeah.
But there's something just that repetitive movement and just the tactile quality of wool. There's something very therapeutic about wool and the feel of it, and just that thing of doing that and slowly creating something. You completely lose yourself in it. And you look up and you're like, where's those 2 hours gone? And I've just done that. And I think that is so important for people. And obviously for us, needle felting is the thing. But I think, people being able to find their craft and something that they can get absorbed in like that, it's really healthy, I think.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Couldn't agree more. So Celestine and the Hare, and then your series of books, and was the first series of books started with the Lightbringers in 2020, or were the children's books before that?
Yeah. So there's a whole series before the Lightbringers of little children's books, and that's what I started with. Although, to be honest, I think I sell more to people in their 50s.
Well, they are so unique, and the combination of your characters and the book with the way you write in that almost poetic way as well. What I noticed was that the characters are very folk arty, and I absolutely love that style. I just think it's such a beautiful, whimsical, earthy style. How did you sort of develop that style? How does that style relate to, because you are obviously heavily influenced by the seasons, which comes across in all your books. They are based on the seasons. So how do they all tie in together?
I think things slowly develop over time. I mean, I'm really drawn to that sort of natural world and the sort of wildlife around. I mean, when I started, I started with little mice, and then I got the weasels, which have got their own little world.
Do you have a weasel there?
I've got King Norty here. Who's become his own fan club.
Yeah, he really does. Tell us where does Norty come from then? Where did?
It was actually a friend of mine years ago who used to misspell. She used to tell me I was being naughty and spell it Norty. And then he just became, I don't quite know how to describe it. It sounds a bit weird to say it, but in things like Shakespeare plays, they always have these beautiful sort of plays. And then in the middle of it, you get this like comic character that comes in and just messes things up. And I always feel he's a bit like that. I mean, that was because I was driving home one day and a little weasel ran across the road, and I was like, oh my God, I just love weasels so much. They're so fun little things, and they're so cheeky and mischievous. And I went home and made a weasel. And he was just a naughty weasel for ages. So they kind of just steal things and jump around and be a bit silly. Over time, it just became this thing that I never called him King Norty, but other people started calling him the King of the Weasels and King Norty. And he's just got his own sort of folklore around him now, really. There's chocolate stealing weasels, and it's just a thing that makes people laugh. So he just nicks your chocolate, and he does little things like there's a button on my website that says don't click here, and if you click it, you get a picture of him saying, oh, bad luck, send me all your chocolate, And it's just to make people laugh. But I mean, you can't just, there are some people who would have me just doing weasel stealing chocolate for the last 10 years, and you have to move on and develop. That was the first book I wrote,
It's
for Panda. It's actually number 2 in the series, but I wrote the first 3 books were all published at once. And
that's were they with Graffeg?
Yeah, so I was doing cards and calendars with them, and then we kind of started talking about maybe doing books. I think because I've never just gone, here's, well, as you can tell from the weasel, I've never just gone, here's a mouse for sale. I always ended up making up a big story about the mouse and where it was going and what it was doing, you know, as a kind of sales thing. And it just seemed to make sense to carry on with the stories. So, I mean, this was the first one is Panda who wants to sail his boat. And they're all just stories of kindness, really. The children
and hope. I noticed that it's a theme that runs through. And how
I've got a real obsession about kindness. And
is that something that you've always had? We all hear be kind, but it seems like just a word that's bandied around and people can stick it on their Instagram profiles. And
this is the most important thing. If you are kind, then everything else falls into place. And I mean, kindness is different to it. It's not always, I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes it can be difficult because to be kind isn't always, you know, it's like compassion and things. They're quite big things that, you know, to be kind sometimes is quite a difficult thing to do in the long run, because you might have to inconvenience yourself, or you might have to upset someone in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But I think that thing of, I think also I used to be a teacher, and for me that kind of, I've always had that thing about helping people. I sort of always had that thing that, you know, we're here to do something. So when I gave up teaching, I felt quite bad because I was thinking, you know, oh, I'm going to lose all of that. So I think for me, the books have really helped with that, being able to bring that, still that theme of like, I hide little things in the books for people to find. So there's hints about, you know, I write notes for teachers, you know, of how could you help someone, or there's like small is hiding, hoping to be found. And it's like, I remember the publisher saying that's an oxymoron, you know, I mean, what do you mean hide? And I'm like, but people do hide hoping that someone might find them, you know.
It's full of hope and it's full of joy and kindness. It's just so beautifully written. It really is. All through the darkness, small beings gather up the tiny sparks, almost extinguished, but not quite, you know.
This is the opposite of the light bringers. It's a reflection of it, about bringing joy. And these are picture books for adults, because
they really are.
That, you know, when you're a child, you get a book with a picture in it, and when you're an adult, you have to go to an art gallery. And why can't we have picture books?
Yeah. Well, when I was on your website, I have to show you this. I treated myself because I'll show you this. I does not listen to lowly piffle, and that is, you know, to me that should be a mantra for life. Please do a t-shirt, because if you do a t-shirt, I will be the first one to be wearing that. It would be my
fabulous t-shirts, and the company I used changed. They were updating all the t-shirts, and I had to take them off, and I haven't put them back.
Oh, this is a tea towel I bought, and I'm supposed to be giving it to a friend, but I really don't think I'm going to part with it, so I may have to get another one.
My sort of strap line is kindness and mischief, because I think there's those everything I do has got 2 sides to it. I think we've got this folklore and the gentle kind of hope and all of that, but gosh, we just need a bit of a giggle sometimes as well. And if I can do a little mug that somebody can just sit on a Zoom meeting at work that says, I don't listen to lowly piffle, and just go.
Brilliant. Like I said, it should be a mantra for life. It really should. Do you have, I mean, it's a bit like asking if you have a favourite child, but most people do. Do you have a favourite character? And don't worry, I won't tell any of the others, but if you could just tell us if you have a favourite character.
I've got a couple of them. So, I mean, obviously King Norty is there as the king of everything.
Yeah.
And I've got him to thank for a lot. My current favourite is this one here, and she is in the new the latest book, The Joy Bringers, which came out this
Oh my
summer.
goodness.
And this is Grandmother Badger, and she's been around for thousands of years, and she watches everything, and she shows you how to find joy when you've lost your life.
Don't, because I'm hormonal today, so I'm feeling ever so emotional.
Honestly, I can't read some of my books without crying. So very special in the book. And she was a complete labor of love. I mean, honestly, it is ridiculous because, I mean, if you look at the book, she walks through the book. So this is her walking at the beginning of the book. She's sitting spinning, and then all the way through there's her sort of detritus, just everything of hers throughout the book. And then she sews everything that she sees throughout the book. And then at the end, she makes this quilt.
Yeah.
Which my friend who lives opposite me, Kathy, she embroiders, and she embroiders accessories for me sometimes. Beautiful quilt for Grandmother Badger, which has got all the small joys in our days to help. And there's a very sad little mouse there.
Yeah.
So she is made of the woods. So this got a little bit, you might say it was nuts for a few photos in a book, but everything about her is made from the woods behind my house where the badgers live. So her shawl is nettles, and I gathered the nettles, and I made cordage out of them, and I crocheted them. She's got nettles being spun here. Her sewing needle is from an antler that I found in the woods. Everything that she has, she's got a basket which I made from brambles and birch bark from the woods there. Her mug, I actually dug clay and made her a mug. All her cloth is plant dyed from plants gathered in the woods as well. And then I cast out of copper, like there's a cone, fir cone there, and a sycamore seed that I cast as well. So she's completely of her place. The symbolism of her is she watches over us and helps to bring us joy. So for me, she's very special. And I think the other one, I don't know, I love Bertram, who's this one. He's just so little and cute. But also, everyone, this is Bert. He's got his own book called Bert's Garden. He's a gardener. He's honestly got his own little fan club. There are people who are just in love with Bert, and like, you know, they're just like, Bert, I wanna marry. Yeah.
He's absolutely adorable. But how does a typical day start for you? Because it says, you know, that you live in Wales, and you know you have a magical shed at the bottom of a magical garden. Do you find that once you leave the house and then open that door into the shed, does your mindset shift? Does it change? Or are you just always in Celestine and the Hare mode?
I think probably 90% of the time I'm in that world, but I occasionally jump out of it. But I'm trying to get better at, I mean, I've got my shed in the garden. It's a kind of posh shed, really, but I call it the shed because, you know, studio sounded a bit,
yeah. If it's in the garden, it's a shed.
Yeah. So I've got my shed in the garden. I've got a little wood burner in it. So I come in the morning, light the wood burner. I've got a lovely little kettle that sits on the top of it, make myself a flask of tea for the day, and then I sort of settle down to work. I mean, as you know, running a business, it's, you know, people think that, you know, if you sell your needle felting, you can just sit in your shed and make all day. But I think they say about 40% of your time is actually making, and the rest is marketing and admin and all of that kind of stuff. And so what I love most of all is the day when I can just come in and sit down and make, and just sit and make all day. That's my just perfect day. But obviously there's always other stuff as well. And I try to sort of plan a bit and be a bit more kind of sit down and make, because otherwise you can start answering emails and then your whole day's gone. But
you do end up, I find you end up a little bit resentful of things sort of interrupting your making, and that side of things. It's like, I really don't want to do that, but I have to.
There's they're called the Design Trust, and they help creatives with their businesses, and they've got a business club, and I joined that, and that was really useful because they give you lots of tips about how to run a business and things. So things like emails can wait. If you get an email at 9 o'clock in the morning, they can wait till lunchtime for you to answer them. You don't have to answer immediately, and things like that. So I do try and be a little bit kind of do this now and then do that and things. But what I love to do is sit and make. And then I've got a little dog, and we go out for a walk every afternoon, and I take animals with me so I can photograph them in the woods.
And of course, then there's the stop motion side. I mean, how long have you been doing the stop motion side?
Well, that was another blooming thing that, I see loads of people doing it now, and there's all these apps and stuff. There was none of that when I started. So I did it pretty much straight away. I've been doing it since like 2013, I think I started doing the stop motion. And again, it was just doing these funny little videos of just a little animal running past or something like that. I mean, now it's a lot easier. You can get an app and things like that to do them. And a lot of people are doing them now. But again, it was me just trying to figure it all out.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit envious of all these people coming along now who they just all of this is there to do. People, you can find out how to do.
Yeah,
things.
I mean, we are the generation that didn't have computers at school. We did everything the long way around.
I don't earn anything from them or anything. They're just to bring a little bit of joy. And I think if I can do a little video that just makes someone's day, people will message me and just say, I really look forward to these. They just make my day. I've had a really tough day. I came home and I just needed that. And I think, well, why not? It's a little, I've got quicker at doing them. And I don't do one every day, but I do a couple a week or something like that.
One every day? A couple a week? I mean, you need a lot of patience.
They're just for fun. So it's not like I have to do a lot of editing and polishing. And as long as my hand isn't in the middle of it or something, I think I'm not too perfectionist about them. They're just a bit of silly fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about as well is you have a really faithful online community, a tribe of chocolatiers, I think you call them. Such a wonderful concept. So how important is community for you in your sort of creative life? What do you get from that? Because you're obviously very busy. You've got a lot going on. How does that fit in to your life, and what do you get from that communal side of sharing your creativity?
Well, I think it all carries on with this thing of wanting to help people and bring some joy to people and things. It started because I had a little tiny shed that was like 6 foot square shed, like a garden shed, and it was blooming freezing. And I was like, I need some money to get a slightly better one. And it was just when people were starting to crowdfund for things. And I just had this thing of, well, that's a bit cheeky. You can't just ask people for money, for no apparent reason. Like, I need a shed, but, why should anyone buy me a shed? So I came up with this idea of a membership club. And I thought, well, if we have like a membership club, you can get a badge and a little card and things like that. And then I'd been to this place, my family's from Sweden, and they were building a big tall ship there, and you could all you could pay to buy a nail to go in this ship, or you could buy a plank of wood or whatever. And I thought, oh, I could do that for my shed. So I was thinking you could have a level where you bought like a wall or a window or something, like that. But then it just became around sort of tea and chocolate because it's me. So we've got, I set up these different levels, and it started as a fundraiser, a way of getting money, but people got something in return. So they got their badge, they got their little card. I have tiers where you get an animal on your birthday. So, I send a little birthday card and make a little animal and send it off to them, as a birthday present.
And I will be sharing all the links to your website and your tribes and your books and everything below. So whatever we're discussing today, you will see down below. Go into that description and just have a look. I mean, even just just looking at the website, like I say, is like reading a bedtime story. Just being on that website, it's so beautiful.
But I think the thing with the tribe was that it took off in a really unexpected way for me. So I was thinking that I set up a Facebook group as a way that people could actually like comment and talk to each other and things. And we've just ended up, I think because it's like-minded people, we've ended up with this community. It's not huge, which in a way is good, because I think if it was thousands and thousands, it gets too big. But we have a little Facebook group. I do a little video every Sunday morning. It's called the Sunday Ramble, and I sit and chat to them for an hour, and they all talk to each other in the chat on the comments there. And I just tell them about my week, and everybody's got to know each other, so they sort of check up and go, "How's your dog?" And all of that kind of stuff. And it's just become like this group of friends. So we meet up once a year. We have a gathering where those that can, because I've got members in Australia and America and things, but the ones who are, in Britain and can travel, we have a yearly meet up, and sometimes we'll do. Some of them have made friends with each other, like in real life, and met up, and gone on holiday together, and all kinds of things. And
it's like the beautiful side of the internet, because for me, the internet I'm very conflicted with the internet. I never had Facebook before I started my business, and so I never bothered with it at all. And now I find that I just tend to stick to the groups that I am part of, and my own sort of Felt Hub group. Because for me, that's the beautiful side of the internet, because it enables people who are very isolated, who can't go out or don't really have a big circle of friends or any friends at all. People who are really lonely. The internet, when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's really horrid. It's
I think that's the thing, is we've lost that community that like my grandparents had, who lived on a street, and they were all popping in and out for tea and things, and everybody knew everybody, and your kids lived down the road from you,
and we all played out on the street. We played out on the street together.
And we're so spread out now. I mean, my brother's up in Scotland, my parents are in Sweden. I mean, we don't have that same level of community now, and I think there's a lot of very lonely people. And not all of my members are lonely, but some really are. And I think we've all just formed this little community that we've taken them in, and we even have, it's just sort of grown. And I think for me, I just love it, because we look out for each other now, and we have a little fund that people can put money in, and then if somebody's having a really hard time, like somebody's, a lady's husband died, we could send her a little gift and a card, or somebody's having a hard time, you can just something on behalf of everyone, just to say we're thinking about you. And if someone's having a tough time, that we've got a little offshoot group where people there's a smaller group where because otherwise it can get a bit, if a lot of people are really struggling, it can really sort of drag a group down if you've just got people posting that they're really sad, and then you get somebody else going, "I'm really sad too." Sometimes people can't cope with that either. So I did a little offshoot group where if you're struggling, you can post in there, and people who are able to cope with that can sort of chat to each other, gives advice and support and things. But I mean, you'll have it with your group as well. People get to know each other. They're like, I mean, my lot are all just got a love for little fluffy animals. It brings like-minded people together, even if they're from every walk of life. And I love that. And I love that you get that real mix of people who might not naturally be friends, but they actually cross over because of this mutual love of little felted animals or whatever.
And we all need our people, don't we? It doesn't matter whether it's a small or a large group, we all need like-minded people, where we all have our groups. And I think that's, like say, the joy of the internet is it can accommodate that and facilitate it. And it's a bit like, I won't talk about this too much because it's just a whole other series, but I think I mentioned to you before about social prescribing. And I know Tower Hamlets years ago started this sort of experiment where the doctors would see people, and where they saw that there was a need for maybe contact, and within a group setting, that they would alongside the traditional medicine that they would prescribe, they would also give them information about groups they could get in touch with or become members of. You know, because a lot of people go to the doctors, and mental health is a struggle for so many people, but so often a lot of that stems from loneliness and just not having a community. So
It's
there's
really
so,
difficult.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, even myself, I mean, I'm in a rural community here. I don't really have any very local friends. And I'm a terrible introvert. So I would, I sit in my little shed and don't see anybody. And then, for me, it's actually really nice having this group that I can chat to every Sunday morning and tell them
yeah,
about my week and whatever. It's like, and you've got friends who kind of, they'll chat back and cheer you on and all of that. And it's so important.
it
I mean, they've
is.
got these like dad sheds and things now, haven't they? Men's sheds they've got for men to get together because they've kind of lost that.
Yeah.
I don't know, we've lost that, a lot of that community side. I think that's the lovely thing about crafts, that you can get together and go to a workshop and do a bit of needle felting, or you can get, they have people who have like craft. My local, there's a shop here who does a morning where you can go along and just sew or bring whatever you're making, and just with the other people, in their room upstairs.
Yeah.
And I think that's the lovely thing about like your felt hub and things, is you can get people together.
I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I don't do the weekly thing, but occasionally I will go on and just have a sort of ramble. And I'd forgotten how to needle felt one day. I was trying to do something of just really basic shapes for I do a Top Tip Tuesday sort of series, and I was just working on something for that, and I couldn't remember how to needle felt. It was just something really basic. I was so frustrated, so I took some of my own advice and just left it for the day. So I kind of just went on and talked about that. I got so many responses from people saying, "Oh, I feel so much better now. I mean, it's not just me." And you are not alone. We are all in the same boat. We just don't, it doesn't feel like it. And as you said, when we are in our own space and quite isolated ourselves, we tend to think it's just us, and it's not.
It's the same with everything. I mean, it's the same with felting. People sort of think, I have days where I think I'm terrible at it, and it's all, my work's awful, and I just think, oh my goodness, how can I possibly think anybody's going to buy this? Or getting sucked into that, comparing yourself to someone else and all of that, or you've forgotten how to felt. I mean, it happen, all those things happen to all of us. We all have bad days, and none of that ever goes away.
Tell us about the In Bulk collection. What does that name mean? These are the animals that you actually sell. And how many collections a year do you do?
So what I tend to do is roughly about 8 collections a year. I used to just randomly put the odd animal up for sale, and now I do a collection. I'll get, you can see previews on the website of who's coming up for sale, and then I put them all up for sale at a set time. So the tribe members get early access the night before. So there's always like this mad, I mean, I'm so lucky. There's this mad flurry of activity of people grabbing them. So yeah, I mean, it went on Saturday night. I put it up at 7:30, and by the time I woke up on Monday morning, everything had gone. Sunday night.
Congratulations, though. I mean, that's amazing. It's testament to your sort of artistry, your skill, and the way you communicate. Like,
I just feel so lucky because I never imagined I could make a living from selling little felted animals. But yeah, so I do roughly 8 collections a year. My work's always seasonal. So I had a Christmas collection, and then In Bulk is the sort of, there's the wheel of the year. You've got the solstices, folklore, some call it pagan, but it's really some people sort of think, oh, that's a bit sort of not Christian or whatever, but actually it's just what we used to celebrate in this country a long time ago. And so in the back I've got of every book, there's these the customs. I get Pam, who's very good at folklore history. She'll write about the folklore that we still celebrate, because I think it's important. All these things that we just don't celebrate in this country very much, all our really old traditions. So In Bulk is the midpoint between winter and spring. So then you've got the spring equinox and Easter and Beltane as the sort of, these half points between the seasons and the 4 seasons. So In Bulk is the same as Candlemas, which is the Christian one of lighting candles, and Bridget, who was an ancient goddess who then became Saint Bridget. And And then, like in America, they have Groundhog Day, which is the same, all on the same day. It's all the same weekend, basically. It's that midpoint between spring, winter and spring. So we've now turned that corner into spring is on its way. You know, we've finished, we're on our way to spring.
Starting to peek out from under our duvets. You're right, the hedgehogs, aren't we? Just coming out and having a look, because it's been so
you
cold.
Can see it. You know, the light, it's starting to get light in the evenings, isn't it? And we can all hear the birds singing. Everybody's commenting about the birds singing at the moment.
It has to be the most anticipated season, spring. It must be, because it's been a long, cold winter this year as well. It's been cold since the beginning of December, I would say.
Yeah, looking forward to the light returning, and that's what the light bringers is they bring the light back to us for spring. So the Inbox collection, it was little animals with snowdrop hats and little copper snowdrops that I cast a snowdrop in copper. And they had, one of the traditions is to light a candle in the earth to warm the earth up to help spring come. So a lot of the animals had little candles to, you know, to welcome spring in. And I like these old folk traditions, so I will always go and light a candle in the earth just to celebrate. Come on, spring, encourage it to come, you know. So I like those old folk traditions, really. So yeah, the next collection is in March, which is spring. But I'm being a little bit cheeky because Kathy, who makes the sewing for me, she's having a little break for a couple of months. I used to do circus mice years ago, and they appear in one of the books as well. And I've been thinking I should do a circus again, like a vintagey kind of circus.
Yeah.
Thing. So I thought I'm going to do that at Easter. So there will be some spring elements in their little animals, you know, with spring themed things, but there will also be a kind of circus theme as well. So that's the first one.
Oh, look.
There's a little circle. Oh. I haven't fixed it. Yeah, so what I do with the collections is I also have 4 made-to-order slots every month as well. So people who have missed out, they can just book a slot and say, can I have one of them? And I do take the odd commissions, but I've stopped doing, you know, people want you to make pet portraits and things. And I think over time, I used to do things and over time, I've sort of narrowed down and go, this is what I like to do, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'm not doing anything else. So I tend to focus on that, like you said, that sort of folk, you know, kind of art, kind of style. And I'm at that stage now where people know what I do. So it's sometimes they'll just go, can you just do me a clock case? I want a cute scene I want a mouse, or, you know, it's almost like there's a limit to what they can pick. So rather than say, can you do me a portrait of this and this? And I did have a really fanciful one for an archaeologist recently who wanted a badger with a face and a hooker and this and that, which was kind of fun to make. But I do, it has to be within my
within that remit.
You can have a picture on the wall and you can choose from, you can have a daffodil or a forget-me-not or a whatever, but you know, it's like, that's your choice. Next up, I'm currently working on the last, so this series has got 4 books in it. There's one for each season. So we've had winter, and then the Wish Gatherers was autumn, Joybringer's summer, so I'm working on spring now, which is published next year because they take so blinking long to do, because I have to photograph them in the season as well. So you've got to allow enough time for you to be able to actually work it with the season, and publishing takes forever. So the Joybringers came out in the summer. So this spring, it could have been this year, but we decided, I talked to the publishers and we both just went, let's just wait a bit longer. So I'm working on that at the moment. This is the main character. It's a little very old shrew.
Oh, it's beautiful.
With his little book. He's the sort of, it's supposed to be a book about rebirth and, you know, babies and all of that. And I've ended up turning it into a book about a very old shrew who may or may not die at the end of it.
Oh, no.
Open, because people go, you can't kill him off. But I was like, no, he's just going to have a little nap at the end of the book. But it's endings and beginnings. The seasons just keep going. So I'm working on that at the moment. Editing the words and all the little incidental illustrations, like these that scatter across. I'm actually drawing them this time, which is a new thing for me. I'm working on that, and then it's just making as usual. I used to do a big craft in focus kind of event where you have a stall, and I stopped doing those in COVID, obviously, because everything stopped. And then I was like, I don't want to do events. I don't want to leave my shit. I used to do workshops as well, and I stopped doing them.
I did workshops before COVID, in-person workshops. I've not done one since.
No, and people keep saying to me, you should do more workshops, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to. And I haven't done any like school events with the books or anything, and I've just sort of hidden away. But I thought I don't want to say where it is because I've applied and I don't know if I've got in yet or not. But there was a fairly big craft fair sent me a message and said, do you fancy applying last year? And I said, it's too short notice. I can't. I'm working on the book, but I'll apply next year. So I've applied.
You're the needle felting pioneer, one of the needle felting pioneers, and you still get nervous.
Yeah, absolutely terrified. I get terrified every collection. I'm just sitting there feeling sick when it goes live because people might not want it. They might not buy anything. I mean, I'm always terrified. I mean, why would they want me?
It's good to hear that from someone who's been doing this for so long, because there's so many people out there feel the same. I could actually sit here for hours talking to you. What I wanted to say really was, if you had a message for someone who was thinking about getting started needle felting, or starting a new craft in general, it doesn't have to be needle felting, what would your words of needle felting wisdom be for them? Maybe they're feeling anxious, maybe they've never made anything before.
I think this is my passion, really. I could talk for hours on this. I think really just play, just have fun. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I mean, I coming in because I had to work it all out for myself, I now see in these felting groups people going, you have to do this and your work has to be rock hard else it's no good, and you have to use wire. And I saw you doing a thing the other day about using wire.
It's a real bugbear of mine where newbies come in and they're trying wire, and I'm thinking, why are you starting with wire?
There's people telling me off saying, oh, but you have to do it this way. I mean, yes, you have to have enough strength that they can sit up. Her head's quite firm because you've got to be able to sew the eyes in, but look how squidgy she is. Because I want to cuddle her. And and she's not rock hard, and I don't want to make rock hard.
And I like a firm felt, and I will use wire. I may use wire in the legs of a sheep, but my favorite is the barbecue skewer. I mean, it's just...
I've never used those.
It's just
I use wire, but that's
the most useful flipping tool I have ever... I mean, it is a complete game changer. And if you are new to needle felting, this humble barbecue skewer will change your needle felting life. And it'll be in your kitchen drawer, probably. It's free.
Yeah. It's that there's no right... You find what works for you. So I use wire, but the reason I use wire is because I want to be able to play with them. So I want to be able to move them. And when I do the videos, they can wave, and people can make them sit down and stand up. So for me,
it doesn't matter.
Not hard because I want to be able to move them. But I think really just start simple with a kit, and just see what your style is, and watch different. I mean, you're great because you do this. I watched when you asked me about this series, I was like looking at your Instagram and things. I was like, this is brilliant because you're saying there's no right or wrong way. And because now there's all these videos and people telling you how to needle felt, I was like, oh, I'm going to watch some of these. And there was this one woman going, this is how you do it. And she had these flat bits that you folded over, and she made like little shapes and then like stuck them on. And she was like, this is how you do it. And I was like, great, but I can't do that. It did not work for me at all. And I'm like, no. So if you see a technique and it's like, that doesn't work for me, try a different one. So I start with a little wire. I don't know if you can even see that little wire skeleton. And then I will build up. So, I mean,
so it's really simple skeleton, that, because some of these wire skeletons that you see are so complex.
So this is a bit of wire that I don't know if you can see with the background. That's a mouse. So I mean, this is how I make my animals. I go like that, and that. So it's head, body, tail, snip it wherever the tail is going to be, and then I just wrap legs around. So I mean, you can see that better. There's the leg. So you can bend them down like that.
Yeah. And what wire do you use then for that? Because obviously some wire is more pliable than others.
I buy these packets of florist wire that's covered in paper.
I've got those. Love them.
I think it's 20 or 22 gauge. I can't remember.
And do you find as well, I find, because I can't be bothered with wax and things like that, I get in such a pickle with it. It's such a mess. I find that the paper covered floristry wire is perfect because the wool just seems to stick to it really well. And I use it all the time.
And if you can't get that, you can also get that florist tape and just wrap the wire with that, and that gives the same thing.
That's a really good tip.
Use this fluff grip stuff for the paws there just to help.
Yeah.
Also, just find what you enjoy, because there's always this pressure that people will look at mine and they go, oh my God, you're so talented. I could never make anything like that. And it's like, you wouldn't sit at a piano and expect to play a symphony when you sit down. But we sort of have this thing with craft that you need to sit down and make something like Grandmother Badger, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it
takes
like
10,000 hours to master a craft, and I could tell you everything that is wrong with her.
The problem is, I think we want things quickly, but what would be the point? Where would be the joy in that? And I talked about this the other week, saying, you know, the joy is in the making. Yes, the end result is lovely, but why are you trying to start on somebody else's chapter 5 when you haven't started on chapter 1 yet, the first page? You've overwhelmed yourself. You've gone onto Pinterest, wherever, you've seen all these amazing creatures. Do you think that they were just produced? Someone just sat down?
This is one of the first mice that I made.
Oh, look.
And I thought this was amazing. When I made it, I was like, oh my God, look at this mouse. Isn't it brilliant? You know, I was happy to put something like that up for sale. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I look at it now and I'm like, oh my God. But, you know, the difference is that, you know, this is what I'm making now, but this is years worth of practice. So don't get disheartened because you're looking at someone. I mean, I do the same. I could look at other felters and go, oh my God, I'm not good enough. But because we all have it, but use that, because that's what gets you better. You know, if you make this and then you go, do you know what? His legs are a bit floppy. I need to make those tighter next time. We learn from doing mistakes. So don't think it's a failure. You just think you're learning. You know, that's when you learn. Otherwise, you can just do it. So,
and every project takes you closer to where you want to be.
Finding what brings you joy. And if making little hearts with cookie cutters is what brings you joy, then make little hearts with cookie cutters.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go and make hyper-realistic animals.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to learn that, you know, sometimes I was thinking, oh, you know, I should be improving. I should be doing different things. Even now, you know, I can find myself going, oh, you know, because there are these needle felters who do these exquisite, completely realistic copies of animals. And then I have to tell myself, but you don't want to do that.
No.
If you focused on that, maybe you could. But what I want to do is bring something that I can sell, not for £20,000, because it's taken me 6 years to make, but something that's not affordable for everyone, but, you know, reasonably affordable and that brings a bit of joy. So, you know, I love making little things like this, give them a little accessory or something and just make, and that's my style. That's what I want to do. Things like Hare are more a labour of love. And also the other thing is, don't get sucked into that. We have this thing at the moment where people go, as soon as you start making people something, people go, oh, you should sell that.
They do.
If you want to do it as a job, great. But don't feel that pressure that this has got to be something that then we monetize everything. And I think hobbies should be hobbies that are joyful. I knit as a hobby. I knitted myself this jumper. I am insanely proud of it.
It's an amazing jumper.
Proper knitters would be picking and going, oh, look at all the mistakes on it, but it's not a great work of art, but I love doing it. I need a hobby that isn't work. So needle felting is now my job, but I knit and I bullet journal and things like that for fun. And I think there's a difference there. So don't worry about try not to get sucked into that. I think just do what brings you some joy, and don't, if it looks rubbish, so what?
Well, it is. And also it's in our DNA to make things. It's quite sad that we feel that everything it's almost like a competition. And crafts are not a competition. They're supposed to be there to bring joy and mindfulness.
When you're a child, if you get a 3-year-old, my little niece she's 4, she'll FaceTime me and go, look what I drew, isn't it amazing? And her dad's having to whisper to me what it is, because it's just chaos on a piece of paper. But when you're 3, you're like, look at my art, isn't it amazing? By the time you get to about 9 or 10, you're going, oh, I'm not very good at drawing. And you start comparing yourself with others. And I wish that, I think that would be my advice. If you can possibly find that little bit of when you were 3 going, look what I've done.
Yeah.
And be really proud of it. And the amount of people who go, you get these Facebook groups and people will put up a picture of what they've made and they immediately go into, oh, I'm not very good. And when I did workshops, people would apologize before we'd even started. I'm just going to apologize now. I'm not very good at I'm not very crafty. I'm not going to make anything good. And I'm just like,
it makes me feel sad when people do that. They're setting themselves up for failure, and I think that's probably because it's school and exams and all the rest of it. It's sort of ingrained into us. I saw a craft blog or something the other day, and somebody said it's a hobby, not homework. And I think that is how we have to sort of re-educate ourselves to think of it. If you have got a busy household, you've got family, you've got kids, or just loads of stuff going on, I say just grab your felting stash and go in the loo for 10 minutes if you need to, just to get away from it all. And even those 10 minutes will make a big difference to how you feel.
For the joy of making, and, just enjoy it, and don't start thinking it's got to be something amazing. And it probably will be eventually, you will start making things that you really like.
But let yourself be a beginner.
Yeah, exactly. And have joy in that, being a beginner as well. And if it helps, when I was at school, my teachers told me I was useless at handwork. I was an embarrassment to my mother because she was such a good craftswoman. I was also told that I couldn't write and sing. They might have been right about the singing. But that's just to prove a point that even if you were told at school that you're not very good, because some of us are of that generation where they weren't quite so encouraging. I was told I was rubbish at writing and I was rubbish at making things. And here I am writing books and making stuff.
Proving every single one of them wrong on so many levels.
So, you can look at your crafts of just 2 fingers up to whoever it was, that told you couldn't if you want, and just have some fun, and find your style, find what works for you. Don't compare yourself to others, play around with it and find what you like to do and do it just for the joy of it.
Well, I think that message is a perfect way to end this interview, Karin. And I just wanted to say a massive thank you. It's been a joy. I could be here for hours. Thank you so much for letting us into your Celestine and the Hare world, the chocolatiers, the weasels, your tribes, your books. It's been an absolute joy. And don't forget, the Celestine and the Hare links will be down below in the descriptions. And even if you just want to go and sit and just have a little look at the website, it's like a bedtime story. It's wonderful. And stay tuned, because I will be announcing the winner of this gorgeous, gorgeous book, The Lightbringers. Some lucky person is going to be having that in their hands very, very soon.
If any of you want a book or anything off the website, in the notes when you order, put a little note. In the note, just write the Felt Hub or saw your YouTube or whatever on it, and I'll sneak you a little extra postcard or a little sticker or something in there as well.
And this is actually signed as well. So Karin has actually signed this book. And do you know what I love as well? This book belongs to. There's not enough books with that anymore.
I was quite particular about that.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
It's been a joy to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. And thank you all for joining us. And I hope to get to talk to you again soon, Karin. And thank you so much for your time.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Good luck to everyone, and thank you so much for taking part, and thank you for joining me at this wonderful interview with Celestine and the Hare. And the winner of the Lightbringers book is Connie Manning. Message me on Facebook with your address and all your details. Well done.